There is a strange kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from cruelty. It doesn't come from betrayal. It doesn't even come from neglect. It comes from too much presence, too many words, too much emotional access, too much certainty. And one of the clearest examples of this comes from a story involving one of the most influential philosophers in history, Friedrich Nietzsche, and the woman who quietly walked away from him. Her name was Lou Andreas Salome. Nietzsche adored her. He admired her intellect. He desired her companionship. He believed she understood him, and he wrote to her constantly. Letters filled with philosophy, longing, admiration, urgency. Letters that tried to explain everything he felt and everything he feared losing. Lou did not leave because she was unfeeling. She left because she felt crowded. And for women today, this story holds an uncomfortable but liberating truth. Love does not disappear because it is weak. It disappears because it is smothered.
Lou Andreas Salome was not a passive muse. She was intellectually formidable, a writer, a thinker, a woman deeply invested in her autonomy. She moved in circles dominated by men, philosophers, psychologists, poets, yet refused to shrink herself to fit them. Nietzsche, on the other hand, was brilliant, intense, and emotionally unguarded in private. He struggled with isolation. He longed to be understood, and when he believed he had found someone who could understand him, he leaned in completely. This was not manipulation. This was not malice. It was emotional urgency. And urgency, as philosophy quietly teaches us, often destroys what patience could preserve.
Nietzsche wrote often, sometimes daily, sometimes several times a week. His letters were not shallow check-ins. They were heavy with meaning. Paraphrased from his tone and style, his words often carried this energy. Every thought I have returns to you. I wait for your response as one waits for clarity. You occupy my inner world more than you know. At first, this intensity can feel intoxicating. To be seen, to be thought of, to be central. But philosophy reminds us of something modern dating often ignores. Desire requires distance to breathe. Lou did not experience these letters as romance forever. She experienced them as expectation. And expectation, especially unspoken expectation, becomes pressure. Here's the quiet truth many women feel but struggle to articulate. When attention is freely given, it feels like warmth. When attention demands response, it feels like obligation. Nietzsche's letters were not neutral. They carried weight. They required replies. They required emotional matching. They required reassurance. Lou did not want to manage another person's inner world, and many women listening recognize this feeling instantly, not because they dislike of, but because they dislike being responsible for someone else's emotional balance. Philosophically speaking, love that collapses inward becomes burden, not bond. Silence is not absence. Silence is containment. Nietzsche believed expression was truth. Lou understood that restraint was power. This is a tension women live with constantly. How much to give, how much to hold. When expression turns into erosion, desire is not sustained by constant availability. It is sustained by self-possession. Lou chose herself, not because Nietzsche lacked value, but because he lacked distance from his longing.
Lou did not argue. She did not dramatize. She did not demand change. She simply withdrew. And this is important. Her withdrawal was not punishment. It was clarity. She recognized that intimacy without boundaries becomes consumption. For women, this offers a powerful lesson. You are not cruel for needing space. You are not cold for protecting your inner quiet. You are not heartless for refusing emotional overload. You are self-honoring.
Lou's power was not in domination. It was in discernment. She understood something Nietzsche, for all his brilliance, struggled with. Intensity without grounding destabilizes attraction. This is not a gendered flaw. It is a human one. But women are often socialized to absorb emotional excess, to soothe it, translate it, soften it. Lou refused that role.
And in doing so, she preserved her dignity, even at the cost of connection.
Modern relationships often repeat Nietzsche's mistake. Too many messages, too much explanation, too much emotional transparency without self-regulation. And women quietly disengage, not because they don't care, but because they feel over-entered. This story reminds us, mystery is not manipulation. Silence is not cruelty. Space is not rejection. Sometimes space is the only place where desire survives.
Lou Andrea Salome did not reject philosophy. She embodied it. She lived the principle that self-containment is seductive. She chose clarity over chaos, inner order over emotional flooding. And perhaps the deepest philosophical truth in this story is this: love that respects boundaries deepens. Love that ignores them dissolves. If this story resonated with you, sit with it. Not to judge Nietzsche, not to romanticize distance, but to ask yourself, where am I giving too much of myself? And where am I afraid to claim space? Because sometimes the most feminine act is not expression, but restraint.